Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another Convert Conundrums. And first of all, Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jordan.
Wa alaikum salam. Hope you're well.
I'm well. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. I'm good today.
18th night. It's
Yeah,
racing.
whizzing by, isn't it? Whizzing by. Last
Definitely.
10 days soon. Yeah,
No,
man.
exactly. Just about to touch upon that. When I sit down for iftar, I'm just amazed. It's my first time, as I mentioned, in UAE in Dubai. But everywhere, it's just, as you said, it's just racing by. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I think that today's topic, as we were just speaking before the show, is one I think is really, really important. Clarity before charity, gullibility versus culpability.
Yes.
And for those who are joining us, I think, as we were mentioning, Jordan, it's not just about the financial sadaqah and giving. It's also about the giving of ourselves, the dedication of our time, the commitment to others who are asking. And as a convert, I remember coming to Islam, and what assets or qualities or positive characteristics you have.
Yes.
You just want to be so giving.
Yes.
Because before we became Muslims, I was from a culture that we suspected everything and everyone. Okay. And we would only give and dedicate to those who were part of our group or our inner circle.
Yeah.
But when you come to Islam and you see about the ummah and everything you're reading and learning about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his character, and you become like that, you almost switch off that your brain as to how you were before, because you're now Muslim and we're all brothers and we're all sisters. And that's gullibility in itself.
I agree, and I agree with you. When I first came into Deen, and one of my friends was talking about this the other day, and he's a black revert as well, and he's less trusting than me. Sometimes when someone does you a favor, you're like, what do they want back for this? You know, and it's kind of an adjustment, isn't it, going into the Muslim community where we do things and you take it. You know, it's giving opportunity if someone wants to help you. You know, if you don't take that help, you're stopping them getting their rewards, aren't you? It's interesting. I remember when I first joined, that was a very interesting concept that I had to get my head around.
Yeah, no, exactly. And as you said, that giving, that generosity is something that's so promoted. And as you said, someone giving you, you're sort of like, what does he want from me?
Yeah, what does he want back?
What does he want back?
Why is he buying my dinner? Why is he buying my dinner?
Exactly. Why is he always smiling and being there for me?
Yeah.
I don't trust that, because it was very. Are they going to take advantage? Are they going to want reciprocation in that way? And then you'd read all the hadith and you'd see what Allah says in the Quran, and beautiful things about when you're giving and how much more Allah will give back, fi sabilillah, and everything like that. So you open yourself up because you're doing that based on what the Deen is saying. But then you'll have those who are waiting in the wings to take advantage of you. But on the flip side, though, we've got to be honest as well. We have individuals who have converted and come into the religion. They see the terrain and they see we can take advantage here. And that happens on so many in so many ways, that you'll have and I'll be honest, you have some converts marrying traditional Muslims. You might have a player from before. He was a Muslim, and he marries and meets a very innocent traditional Muslim, Pakistani, Arab, what you have from the African and North African culture, from the East African culture, and they've been raised in a nice family environment, never mixed with boys and everything like that. And this individual brings all this baggage, and he has an idealism about him, but he realizes this is I'm bored. I'm going to play with this woman. Maybe she's got wealth. Maybe he sees her innocence and plays with that. Okay. And whilst that's not, and we're not talking about charity and whatever we're talking about individuals giving themselves. And that's happened to brothers as well. Sister may come from outside of the Deen, or it may be the other way around, and literally taking advantage of the good nature of the individual. So it's not only Muslims being taken advantage of and being disrespected in that way, it's also converts coming in and seeing how easy it is to traverse this terrain and take advantage of individuals unsuspecting and welcoming of such an individual.
Yeah.
Wa alaikum salam to everyone who's joining us. Good to see all of you. Frank, you've just seen your message. Wa alaikum salam to Allah. And Dave, hello to you as well. So what do you think, though, of Jordan? As I said, this is not one where it's converts versus traditional Muslims or traditional Muslims versus converts. It is something where a gullibility is there, and many of us are unsuspecting of those who are coming towards us with such arms open, such embracing approaches.
Yeah, I think there is that. Like, I remember coming into the Dean, and particularly being in the public, people offering their help, people offering whatever you need. And I guess you do feel, I mean, it's a bizarre experience when you face. It's one of the beauties of Islam, isn't it? When you come in, the Ummah embraces you, and whatever you need, someone's going to be there to help you. Whether it's help with your house, whether it's help with this, whether you're in debt, whether you're this, whether you're that. And I've unfortunately I've seen, in public you've seen people take advantage of this. There was a famous guy on TikTok that converted to Islam, took about £25,000 of funding for his dad's illness and stuff, and then left the Dean straight after. Yes. And it did make me wonder, because the thing is, I'm sort of because I don't want to, the last thing we want to do is make people skeptical about giving, because that's what Muslims do. Muslims give, don't they, with good intention,
right?
And we help each other. But I guess I'm sort of seeing that there has to be some level of I don't know. We
due diligence.
Due diligence. That's right. There has to be, like these sort of GoFundMe things that come around. There's a sister in debt. She needs £5,000. We're a tendency to just give it. When should we be asking, well, what's this money for? Can I know more about the situation? Whereas often you get back, well, it's personal. So,
right.
So yeah.
And I think on that example that you've given, this individual raising money for his father and then and leaving the Dean. Yeah. My first job with a Muslim was with Youth of Islam. Okay, I'd left the legal profession, joined. I was starry-eyed, like, wow, I'm now. And that was like, I came to the Dean in 1990. I started working for Youth of Islam in 1993, and I was responsible for his legal work in schools, and we were involved in getting the school grant maintained. And I remember I was in a management position, and it was, I think, a Ramadan, and an individual turned up, and he was really sort of like shy, and he said, "I'm in a big problem. Look, I've run out of petrol money. I've got no money left to get back up north, and I was visiting, and I'm a non-Muslim." And he gave his story, and he sat down and he said, "Look, I've just seen how some of the people are, and I saw this school. I saw Muslims coming in. I'm thinking about becoming a Muslim." So I was captivated by his apparent genuine behavior. And as I said, my background's suspect everyone. So some of my colleagues at the time were like, no, we can't trust this. We can't trust this. And I'm like, no, got to give him benefit of the doubt. He's thinking of becoming Muslim. Let's hear what he has to say. So we sat in the prayer area with him talking. He was tearful. You brothers are beautiful, everything like that. I want to take Shahada. So he took his Shahada. And others were like, okay, he's taking his Shahada. He seems sincere. So I said, look, now his sins are wiped away, whatever he's done, let's give him the money that he needs to get back. He had this nice Mercedes outside and everything as well. And he admitted that, yeah, it's my car, but I'm just broke and I'm thinking of selling it. So I said, no one wanted to give. And obviously I didn't want to take money from the school account. So I just went down the road, took out, I can't remember how much it was, 50, 75, 100, I don't know. Gave it to him. And he's like, thank you. And really happy. Couldn't say Assalamu alaikum properly. And he went. And whilst there was a little niggle in the back of my mind, being a Muslim, it being Ramadan, I was like, no, I've given fi sabilillah. And you do get rewarded for your intention. We know that. And my friends were like, this still doesn't cut with us. And one of them was like, I feel guilty now. I was the one telling you not to do it. And he took Shahada. I feel guilty. Now, here comes the punchline, Jordan. Go 6 months to a year later, I was coming back from doing a talk up North England somewhere. I stopped on the M1 service station to get some refreshments with one of the brothers who used to work with me in Islamic school. Who did we see? Another nice car parked outside the service station. A group of Muslims gathered around him. What drew me to him is when I heard the words that, like, run out of petrol, no money, on the way back up, really interested in Islam. And I heard that and I thought, hold on. Then I looked and I saw it was him. And I went straight over there and I said, don't give him anything. This is who he is. And he recognized me. And he tried to disappear, get into the car. And the Muslims, they're getting ready to give him money.
Yeah.
And I said, don't give him a penny. And I really rebuked him. But that wasn't it. He turned up at my mosque where I was chairman one day after Jummah. Didn't know it was the mosque that I was chairman for.
Did it again?
He walks into the mosque and the same story. Now, as you know, the community I come from is a bit of a resilient one. And when I spoke to him, they turned. They didn't do anything to him. But it's like, really? Is that him? And he ran, jumped to his car and drove off. So that's how, for me, I was gullible. I didn't seek enough clarity. The question can be asked, how much clarity can you get before you give charity? But for me, it was a wake-up experience. But it doesn't mean that you can choose and determine what's right, who's sincere, who's genuine. It's difficult.
Yeah, because that's the worrying thing, isn't it? When we come out with the examples, we don't want to suddenly make it where... Because do you think also we have a bit of ourselves from our old life where we are very skeptical? You know, people that ask for money, there's, you know... I do love the fact that in Islam, people are genuinely, you know, there's no better community for charity or helping people out than the Muslim Ummah. And I'd hate to change that. But I think, and you'll correct me, even Islamically, we should be doing our due diligence on all of these aspects, and we don't want to create an environment where people can just come into the deen, make money, and leave, because there's so many crooks out there at the moment. And
that's right.
You know, particularly online, unfortunately, it's so easy to just, you know, get a channel, convert to Islam, you know, say that you need this, need that, and people are going to give because they care. And the last thing we want to see is people take advantage of, isn't it?
No, you're right. It's a difficult one to traverse. It's a difficult, like walking on a tightrope in this instance. And as Ali is saying, when she became Muslim, look through rose-colored glasses.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and we did. And I think to some extent we do. And as you said, we don't want to become too cynical. But when you see these abuses taking place, and sadly, when you see them from big established organizations or big established personalities, and I'll talk even about my own community, and it can be as a result of not necessarily trying to defraud individuals, but because of malpractice, mismanagement, maladministration, incompetence, ineptitude. And as a result of that, they're always asking for money because they're not managing their affairs properly. That's a problem. Then you have the personalities, and there's a verse here. There's a khutbah I gave 20 odd years ago, wolf in sheep's clothing. But I refer to this verse where it says, and of mankind there's he whose speech may please you in this worldly life, and he calls Allah to witness as to that which is in his heart, yet he is the most quarrelsome of opponents. And when he turns away from you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his effort in the land is to make mischief therein. So as you mentioned with that questioning the GoFundMe, what's it for? Can you give us some clarity? You often get a rebuke or a negative response, like, how dare you question it's private affair. But hold on, you're asking publicly, and now you're becoming quarrelsome and abusive when being asked what the finances are for. And so it's really difficult. Some will say, look, I'm just going to give and trust in Allah, but then what you may be doing is enabling that individual and that organization in their bad management, in their incompetence, because you're thinking, well, I'm just giving fi sabilillah and I just got to give and leave it to them. But then the question comes, well, what about those who really do need it? And
and there's plenty of those.
More time. You spent a little bit more time finding out, identifying who they were. They would truly be grateful.
Yes.
You know,
I agree. Do you think? Because I think when I came into Islam, I mean, we're not silly, but you definitely, I think, as a revert or someone new to Islam, you suddenly assume that Muslims are all ultra pious, ultra trusting, and all of a sudden, so for me, I think when I came into the deen, I'll do a business transaction with a Muslim and think, you know, he's Muslim, you know, so I don't even need to sign a contract, you know. I don't need, our words are words, you know. But I think even Islamically in that position, shouldn't we? We should always be tying up the loose ends, and we should just be always doing our due diligence and all of those. I think I definitely. So someone said about the rose tinted glasses. You definitely come into the ummah with that, especially as a revert. And you mentioned about the sisters coming in as well. You know, especially the revert sisters that are suddenly almost manipulated into marriage and things like that. So
yes, and as Mr. Lester's saying, some mosques were getting money in the name of new Muslims in the 90s, and they didn't tell us. Yes, well, see, this is the first I'm hearing about Mr. Lester.
Yeah.
I became Muslim in the 90s. So manipulating positions with regards to attracting finances, and this is a problem. We're talking about it, Jordan, not because we have solutions, but I think to raise and discuss it, because we're seeing charity after charity. And I'll mention one, Penny Appeal, and what the disastrous thing that happened in Africa with them. When you look at Oxfam and you see what was taking place in Haiti and the abuses that were taking place. We've got Muslim organizations, as I said, from mosques that are Ahl Sunnah, that we know, and there are scandals plaguing them at the moment. You've got some of them in individuals in positions of treasurers. I'm talking about the mosque that I herald from, and because of that position of trust that those individuals have, doing Ponzi schemes where people have been defrauded out. I'm saying in this case millions, up to the tune allegedly of 60 million. You've got individuals suicidal because they put their savings into that and things. And so I spoke to one of the brothers concerning this today, and he said to me, I warned them a year ago, not to invest in this scheme. But when you see someone, well, he's a treasurer, we trust him. If he was bad and it was a wrong thing, he wouldn't be doing that because he's a trusted individual. And so the clarity goes out of the window because we have that good opinion of these individuals. As you said, as we spoke about the sister, you come in, the sister is a traditional Muslim, and she braves it and marries a convert, for example. And this particular convert, and sisters, we're not all like that, Jordan and myself particularly, myself, but they come in, they come in, and suddenly the baggage of that individual, or the way he used to hustle before, or she used to hustle before, is done with this unsuspecting new Muslim spouse. Okay, and that may even be financially as well, because they may have come from a homeless, broken background. They wanted that security, and not only did they want that security, they wanted that financial security as well. They wanted that emotional security as well. And the individuals giving all of themselves to them, only to be scarred, only to be broken, only to be taken advantage of.
Definitely. Penny Appeal was actually, I learned the hard way. So I went to an event for Penny Appeal with my sister, and it was my first Muslim event. I absolutely loved it, and to be honest, that was enough for me to go, this charity is good. So we raised about 13 grand on this channel. All the proceeds go to the Yemen cause, and I thought Penny Appeal doing that. And when I look back, I think, was I too trusting? Did I not? I didn't really check it out enough. So alhamdulillah, now I've looked into many and Ummah Welfare Trust too. I've even met the people there and stuff. But it was definitely, when I first came, I wouldn't have thought twice about, a Muslim charity. That's fine. But, I was essentially directing people to that charity and promoting it. So looking back, that was definitely a lesson.
And it's a lesson. But then how do we scrutinize that we don't make that mistake again? As I said, when I'm speaking about a community that I came from, and the mismanagement and maladministration, and hearing that there's no water during Ramadan, and £17,000 water bill has come about, and you're like, how do you get a £17,000 water bill and the water being cut off in Ramadan? And then you're making an appeal where it's not really an appeal, can you give us money? You're bringing verses talking about it's for the pure people to maintain the houses of Allah, and you're basically deflecting in that instance. But then on probing further, you realize, well, hold on a minute, do they really need the money? Or are they trying to get this money because they're in an embarrassing situation? So they're raising these funds to offset against whatever budget that money was going towards in the first place. But there's no transparency there. So that puts a really bad taste in your mouth when you've got another charity which is raising money and showing pictures and doing appeals, and then you realize that there's been some underhandedness taking place there, where they're buying the products at premium prices when you can get them at cheaper prices, but the margin between the price that you can get them for, you're taking the profits for a company that's yours while earning above 70,000 a year, and basically defrauding and deceiving the community. And when caught out, and Jordan, I'm saying this because I was contacted, I've seen the papers, solicitors were involved to come and look and arbitrate, barristers and that non-Muslim firm, and both parties looked at it and said, yeah, there's been a clear case of fraud that's gone on here, but you won't apologize for that. Okay, you become, as we say, South London, wrong strong. Okay, you become argumentative, like that verse in the Quran. And so we've got to be really careful in giving, and we still got to give, but we do need to have clarity. We do need to look at track records. We do need to speak to others. What's your experience here? I'm about to give. What's your experience here in this instance? And if it's a place that is mismanaging its finances, you've got people in position who are inexperienced in running things, you could be doing more harm than good when you give them that money, when you donate that charity.
So that's really interesting, because I mean, you obviously, I'm new to this, and you know, obviously you've vast experience in chairmans of mosques, and you've seen a lot. I guess Ramadan's that time of year where you just give, don't you? And to be honest, for me, like at the moment, I'm just trying to get through my day often, and if I see something that is asking for money, often I'll think, oh, you know, it's Ramadan, and I'm gonna get rewards. And so I guess, would you say it's planning and sort of doing your due diligence in advance of that, isn't it? I'm thinking.
No, it is, and what we do need to look at, for example, is that sadaqah that you want to give. We know from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran that you start with your family, okay? Then you expand to the wider circles, the wayfarer and everything like that. And we know that Allah talks about those who are in need. The signs of them is that they do not ask. You do not see them coming out and asking. So we could probe our own immediate circle, and even just visiting a mosque and seeing for ourselves, or asking about what about, how's this sister? There's a single mother there with children. There's a brother who's come into straitened circumstances because he's lost his job and he's got family and everything. And you can give a little bit here, you can give a little bit there. You might have a friend who's not mentioned to you that they're struggling, and you could say, right, take in that instance. You want to do something bigger. Many want to build walls and everything. And you, for example, I know if I'm going to give money to build a wall, I've got a very close friend who I trust, and he goes from A to Z to make sure that this money is being channeled in that particular instance, that it's not being lost by administrative fees, and then only very little is going to the orphans or that society or community. So that's difficult. But as you said, in Ramadan, we know statistically, we know even non-Muslim media reports it. We as an ummah, especially in the UK, are the most generous in donations in the UK. No one comes close, especially in Ramadan. You know, especially in Ramadan. But then we need clarity, but we've got to avoid gullibility as well. You know, we've got to avoid being gullible. And as you said, like so many said about the cases, some of the examples I've given, but if I just give, it's my intention. But if you gave you gave someone, you knew that person was going to use it for drugs, but you knew if they didn't take those drugs, it could kill them. I know that's an extreme example. You're going to say, well, fi sabilillah, I'm going to give because at least it's what's in my heart. Because a lot of people say that it's what's in my heart that counts and everything. Often the action has to match what is in your heart as well. Okay. With sadaqah, with charity, it's quite difficult to match those two. But it doesn't mean, like, we're told not to give money to the foolish. We're told not to give the orphan the money until if you're looking after them, they're your wards, until they hit the age of maturity, and they know about finances. They know not to just be spendthrifts. And Allah tells us He doesn't like the spendthrift. So if we're just throwing the money in that way, this is a problem in itself for us. And Aman, thank you for highlighting it. It is a major issue. And this is why we're speaking about it, because we're seeing reputable organizations, we're seeing organizations that we know, and individuals that we know who are embroiled in scandal. And even when speaking to these individuals, there's an arrogance about them now, defending themselves. Yet hundreds of thousands have been taken by these individuals, and evidence is there that there's been wrongdoing. And so that's why I thought, when I spoke with Jordan, I thought we need to talk about this, because
I agree.
We've got to call these people out.
And do you know what? Would you say? And this is, be careful where this money is one of the biggest fitness for all of us, isn't it? And
yes.
So we need to check ourselves and all of these things. It's obviously we're pointing at other people that might have done wrong as well, and you've always got to check yourself as well, and you don't put yourself in situations, that could lead to things like this.
No, absolutely.
Inshallah, we all keep our intentions clean and things like that. But it's definitely something to reflect inwardly and outwardly, isn't it? On this topic.
Yes. I think the clarity that's required, and the person who is asking for that finances, the organization that's asking for that finances, should not feel an affront if they're asked, explain to us, sit us down, talk about this, tell us about what you're going to do with this. I remember when I had donors come to me when I was chairman for Brixton, and this was in the 90s, and it was through colleagues of mine who really liked what they were seeing. They were Arabs, and they said, we like what we're seeing from you. And they spoke to some extended family members who had one of the biggest Muslim charities, Al Rahma at the time, 10 million they had that in those days. So they called me and said, look, we're seeing what you're doing, your convert mosque and everything, and can we come and visit? I said, please come and visit. And they came, they sat, they said, you're a bit young, do you have any elders around you? I said, we got a few. So they then said to me, they looked at everything, I had a few meetings with them, and they actually said, look, we want to buy the mosque. We've seen what you're doing. And they literally spoke to my solicitor, said, do you have a solicitor? It was a colleague of mine. And they said, look, our solicitor is going to transfer the money to an account. And then after that, Abdul Haqq has sole authority of the finances. Now, I went to the community and the shura, my committee, and said, this is what's happening. And they didn't want to be involved. Are they Salafi? If they're not Salafi. And I went straight to Sheikh Al-Albani through students. He said, no, tell Abdul Haqq, if there's no strings attached by the mosque and everything. So I kept it transparent all of the way. The money was put into the account, negotiated with the council. I went at that time, just before the sale, I got an opportunity to go and live in Saudi, went to Saudi. This was in 97. The council contacted me back, whoever you've put in charge, we're pulling the sale because there's an element of incompetence. They don't know what they're doing. So I came back. I was after donors said, can you come back? We'll have a meeting, and said, can you leave Saudi? And I was like, no. I'm Saudi. I'm going to be going Hajj this year. It's a lifetime a dream for me as a Muslim. So they said, look, whatever you want, we want you to stay back, because it's clear that without you being there, we're not taking the money back. It's in the account, but we can see things are not going through. So I said, okay. Renegotiated with the council, got a plot of land at the back, and the sale went through. It was transparent. No one said, did Abdul Haqq get any extra money for it or anything like that? Because they saw it was transparent. The money went from here to there. Even the donors said, look, because literally, I didn't go back to Saudi. When I came back over, I'd left all my furniture, everything. My wife and kids came back. I had to say to my sister who was on Umrah, go and bring my stuff. I'm not coming back. I resigned from my job. That's how much pressure was put on me to stay. But the donors said, look, do whatever you want. We're going to support you. So I started my first not-for-profit organization called Al Ansar. They bought the building for me, put the finances up. I got Abdul Rahim Green worked with me. We got together doing the dawah and everything up and down the country. Again, it was all transparent. Okay. Some said, no, you need to bring this into the community. We need to own it. And I was like, well, no, hold on a minute. This is my own organization. The mosque is there and everything. But the point I'm making, I'm not a saint. But one thing we should fear when we are being given money by Muslims, by anyone, by non-Muslims, for a cause, and that money does not reach that cause. Yeah. In totality, not okay, 35% of it goes and the other 65 is my salary or paying others. Yeah. We need to fear that we will stand before Allah on the day of judgment having abused this person's trust. Yeah. That's the frightening thing.
Yeah, and it's so easily done, like Mukit's thing here about Muslims hijacking the concept of hustle down, the positive assumption of your fellow Muslim, and that's so true, isn't it? And like I say, as reverts, you meet Muslims that are so good-hearted and they just want to help you. They're desperate to help you.
Yes.
And you can definitely see that, yeah, under the, someone with the wrong intentions or, could really pull one over on them.
And they move around. You've got some individuals who move around different communities, and they move ahead of that community finding out about this individual, be that financially, be that marrying multiple times, divorcing, abusing sisters, or sisters abusing husbands, because that takes place. Okay, moving around. And those communities, we very rarely do due diligence. Now, I remember when I was chairman again with the mosque, and we'd get occasional calls from others saying, can you tell us about this brother? And some would misunderstand, or this sister, and they would say, oh, you've got to cover the brother's faults, you can't mention these things. Like, now, hold on a minute. This individual did crimes in this community. And because we are reluctant people to go to the authorities, to the police or whatever, if we don't deal with it in-house, and not all communities can deal with things in-house like we used to do in Brixton, yes. I hasten to add. Yeah. But so they don't go to the police and everything. It's like, let's leave it to Allah. And that's all okay. We're leaving it to Allah. But as we leave it to Allah in this community, that individual sees that and perceives that as a weakness, moves to another community, abuses that community, moves on, and that community adopts the same thing as the first community. Leave it to Allah. Don't speak. And this goes down, when it gets at its worst, this goes down to sexual abuse as well. This goes down to child abuse as well. This goes down to domestic violence as well. I've witnessed all of that taking place, and the knock-on effect, because of the reluctance of the community. No, we cannot go to the authorities. Hold on, this child's been abused. And you want to leave it? They move somewhere else. That community won't come and get clarity from you until the same thing has happened there. And you're like, and if you know they've moved to that community, you need to make a phone call to the imam, the chairman, the committee. You've got such and such a brother coming in. You've got such and such a sister coming amongst you. This is the experience that we have had here.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it, but we're advising you. Yeah. This is what's taking place here. And this is not happening amongst communities, because that individual will move, rubbish the community they came from. Did you know they did this? And they may highlight some genuine weaknesses in that community, and this community might dislike that community. Like, I'll give you an example. The Birmingham community, I call them a cult. They may dislike other communities. So when you're leaving the ranks of one community, go in there with gossip about that community, they won't check and say, well, hold on, what's your story? They're like, look, he's come amongst our ranks. She's come amongst our ranks. She's going to marry amongst our ranks. Did you know she said this about this brother who's an opponent of ours, XYZ? But they don't know what this sister's story is or what this brother's story is until it's too late, because they're so happy that they've joined their ranks and they've come from a perceived opponent. And this is happening in various communities around the UK. I'm sure it's happening in America, from some of the experiences that brothers and sisters have told me about there. And where is the clarity in this instance? Now, we're saying clarity before charity, brothers and sisters, gullibility versus culpability. But this encapsulates, this encompasses everything that we're talking about now.
Yes. Yeah. It's and obviously, like I say, you've been in the game a lot longer. It's a shame to hear, some of the things that you've mentioned there, even worse than the money situations, isn't it? And I guess this covering sins and stuff like that. I mean, what the Islamic position surely is, isn't it, to protect the community first?
Oh, absolutely. And some sins have to be covered. We can't just go around exposing. But if there's a pattern, Jordan, of this person taking advantage. Okay, you can't just leave it. Yeah. Especially when it's like, as I said, you're defrauding people. Yeah. Or you've got brothers who've gone in and married sisters. Some have actually taken ownership of the properties that those sisters have owned, or their family properties that were vested in those sisters. They've taken ownership of those properties. Okay. And then they've moved on. And the property's in their name, and the sister's left without any assets or anything now, family assets that were given to her. And they've seen, or there's been finances. There've been sisters, brothers even as well, who've had their finances, their savings rinsed during the marriage. Yeah.
So is there an ease? So a revert comes into religion. Is there more of an ease for them to get married? Are Muslims more likely to be manipulated by a sort of a revert? Is that what you're saying?
That can happen. That can happen depending on the community that should be going. And you're right. Hello Thursday. No abuse should be covered. None. You're absolutely right. Thank you for highlighting that. So that this individual may come in. Okay. He may be sweet. He may have some swag. As some of us come in and suddenly he's attractive. People want to know him. He moves into a community that is a traditional community, Pakistani, South Asian, North African, Nigerian, or whatever. And he is unique in that particular community. So he has his pick, if you like, of these virtuous families. Okay. Now, when moving into those families, he realizes they don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about me. I can give a sob story. I can give a story of being a prolific businessman. Okay, I can get them to invest, like what's happening in my old community now. Let's invest. They trust him because of the way he has positioned himself in the community, and he's taking funds. He may give one individual back here. You gave me 10,000. Look how I've turned that around. Here's 20,000. That then spreads. He may do that 2 or 3 more times. Typical Ponzi scheme. That may happen a few times, and then suddenly others are putting in bigger chunks of money because they've heard about this success story. 100% turnover. No clarification, because this is a good brother. This is a good sister. We don't see or hear anything but good from them. So clarity goes out of the window. Gullibility accelerates. This is what happens on a number of occasions, Jordan, across the way. There's the other way as well. You can have an innocent convert, yourself, myself. I'm not so innocent, but you can have an innocent convert come in and come into a community and heart open. And I saw this, subhanAllah, I saw this happen, and I'm going to speak about this. White convert I knew, a few white converts came in. They had this idealism sold to them about Africa, and I'm not going to say which country because it'd be too close to home, community that I know. And so they invested a lot of money into a particular African country, and they went over there expecting their home to be built and everything like that to be. They got there and it was nothing more than a mud hut. Wow. And also the land that they bought, they didn't need to buy it because the government, the president of that country, seeing this small community, so had given land to them for free. So it was their own Western colleagues who'd gone over there first as pioneers who were doing this. And I know this for a fact because it came back to me. I was chairman of my community, and they came and said, this is what's happening. But these individuals had invested. They were gullible, white converts of a dream to live in Africa. Okay, invest in their finances and going to find a mud hut, if that. Extortionate money taken to build a mosque. And I remember being asked, can we do some fundraising? And I said, I was very reluctant to let fundraising take place in Brixton Mosque. I said, look, we only do internal fundraising, even if it's people from our community, because I didn't trust those who were coming. And so I wouldn't let anyone leaflet at all. I said, no one can leaflet, no one can do fundraising, because I didn't trust who the individuals were. So I remember seeing some pictures and saying, oh, this is the mosque. And I remember I put 2 and 2 together, and it didn't come to 4, it came to 22, because saying remove the plus sign, because you've raised a lot of money for this mud hut that's called a mosque. And I've told we have to buy the land, but the government, the president, gave you the land for free. Now, these individuals may have been well-intentioned because they wanted investment to build up a community, but they had not given the full picture to those who were coming in. So there was culpability now. We haven't bought that. There was culpability in not being transparent enough. Just like this current incident I've learned about today and yesterday. I've been getting phone calls and everything, even though I've not been in the UK responsible and active in that community for 18 years, despite being at a distance. But the fact of the matter that others are calling me from everywhere, we've been ripped off, we've invested. I said, what do you want me to do? I'm not chairman there anymore. I'm no longer chairman. But these sort of things happening because of I won't say being dishonest. I think dishonesty may come into it to an extent, but because of what's the word I want to use?
Negligence, or is it
negligence?
Yeah.
Incompetence. Okay. Malpractices I've mentioned, mismanagement, and not acknowledging and accepting that we don't have the skills and the qualifications to deal with this position and the finances that come with this position. And so you've got some communities that are always asking for money to pay the bills, to do this, and it's like, well, okay, yes, donations need to come in, but when you look at communities like Bethnal Green, for example, I remember that there was the Bengali community, the East London Mosque. I remember before they had all of those shops and businesses there, that was just land, that was barren land, and they encouraged the community to buy plots. Okay, buy plots, wait. So those families bought plots of land, that land there, and then when it came time to yield it, they all benefited. And that's why you go there, you go to really nice restaurants now, you've got centers, business centers there and everything. And other communities have had the opportunity to do that. Okay. They've had, my community had the opportunity to do that. And at the end of the day, those who are in management, they don't have the business acumen or the foresight to, if they're taking charity, to make that charity grow. They're so short-sighted that they are looking immediately around them. And they, as I said, they don't have, if you look into their own personal life, and I'm not saying everyone should be property owners and have successful businesses, but when you need to look at the person who's been put into that position. If they're not capable of doing it because of their own personal circumstances, why you're oppressing them by letting them assume such authority?
Yeah.
You know, so for you, for Jordan, for yourself, you've given some good examples. And I'd just say to you, if I can offer some advice, because of your presence, because of your profile, you will continue to get people coming to you. Okay, you're a good face, handsome, especially sisters, mashallah, tabarakallah, approaching you and everything. And don't get me wrong. While I'm saying yes, attractive face and everything, don't worry. I know I'm good to go as well. So mashallah, I'll pick myself up. Like
I was going to say that. I was going to say
that. But what you'll find, Jordan, you're single. You'll find individuals coming to you. And I'm not saying be suspicious of all, but again, the key words here, 2 words: due diligence.
Yeah, I agree.
That single word, clarity.
I also feel that, and I agree with you there, but I also feel, and like I said, I don't want to oust people, but I feel that the impression people get, and I don't know if it's because I'm a revert, because I'm online, is that I'm some sort of ultra pious, knowledgeable Muslim. You know, some of the people that approach, I mean, is that something as well that where they assume a revert is probably this perfect kind of, you know, because. Yeah, you know, behind closed doors, we've all got our issues, haven't we? And I think, I mean, for me, you know, we spoke about our backgrounds, you know, on past streams and stuff like that. And so, you know, these are, I've always thought, and I don't want to be too controversial, but I've always thought, for me, if I had a daughter, for example, I think I'd much rather a born Muslim than a revert, because for me, a revert comes with baggage. And, you know, I come with baggage, and I don't know if you might have thrown yours away.
No. They're weighing me down.
We still got it on there. So yeah.
But no, that's it. And this is a point. It's interesting because my daughters, alhamdulillah, one married, some are going to be getting married this year, inshallah. And they said that, and I didn't know how to. I'll be honest. I'll share this with you. When they said we want to marry someone who's always been Muslim like ourselves, Dad, and at first I didn't know how to take it, and I thought, should I feel insulted because I'm a convert?
Yeah.
And they were being honest and open to themselves, and I was like, why would they say that? And I say, no, sometimes converts can be really good and everything. And they said, but they politely said, but Dad, we want someone who's been a Muslim like ourselves. And I was like, what? And I respect that. I understand it, and like you've just said. And for me, I'm saying to myself, I do understand that. But then I say, also, let's look at, there are genuine converts there who come in, are stronger on the deen, who are sincere and want to grow. And then we have the example of the Sahaba who were converts. Yeah. Okay. And they were the best of generations in that instance. So I think that we really need to, again, the clarity needs to come in. We need to take off the rose tinted glasses. We need to look at the individuals for who they are and everything like that.
That's right.
And we shouldn't limit it. But I understood my daughter's concerns in that instance, but I would still say, well, no, do not close that door and say no converts because they come with baggage, because you've got Muslims who've grown up. And I'm going to throw it out there. We've seen the grooming things that were taking place and everything. We saw the mugshots of these individuals, and they were bearded and everything like that. So you've got the good, the bad, the ugly, everywhere in that instance. And you've got individuals who are going to want to try and take advantage from all perspectives in that way as well. As I said, there've been some beautiful convert sisters who've come to the deen, and they've had an agenda. You've had some beautiful Muslim sisters, traditional, who they've been able to marry converts, and they've turned heads wherever they've gone. And when the brothers have married them, they've realised there's some serious issues here that I was not told about, and I'm being taken advantage of because of my newness to Islam, and I didn't know all of this myriad problems that are there. And you just saw me green, gullible, and you've just let me marry you, brother. I'm a Muslimah, and I will teach you Arabic if it's Arab, but I'll show you the cultural aspects of the deen. And so there you are, green-eyed, gullible convert, like beautiful, beautiful. And then you realise I've let down all the barriers and guards that I had as a non-Muslim when I met a woman, because I'm a Muslim now, and I've met a Muslimah, and she's going to be different from the women that I met in my Jahiliyyah, and you realise I've been suckered. And that happens to brothers, converts, as well as it happens to sisters who realise that about converts as well. So it's really important, Jordan. I think it's really, really important that we discuss this. And I say to those brothers who are at the helm of charities, and your names have been exposed and evidence has been placed against you. And some of you I know well, and we were close, and I won't say we're that close now, but we're relatively close in that instance. But my thing would be to you, in this month, you need to check yourself and the claims that are against you and the evidence that's been placed against you. Those organizations, some of whom I used to belong to, you need to check yourself in how you're going to the people, what you're presenting to the people when you're saying, we need to raise funds, and you're bringing verses of the Quran, you're bringing all those noble ayat about he who gives charity and the ears of corn, and you're bringing all these noble verses, but at the base of what you're doing, you know there's a lack of transparency, there's mismanagement at the least, there's dishonesty at the worst, and corruption that crowns all of that. And I'm speaking, if there's any of them watching this, okay, I'm speaking to you, and you know who you are, and you know there's been communication between us directly and indirectly. But then I say this as well to the brothers and sisters, as we come into the last 10 nights, this is not a discussion to put you off giving charity, but what it is for you to seek clarity. And if you see that those who are asking, who are asking for funds become a bit abusive or negative to you, pause. Go elsewhere. Go elsewhere. Redirect that. If you've got people coming into your community, we don't want to police them, but try and find out a bit about them. Try and find out about their background. When we interview people for jobs, Jordan, we ask for references and we check those references. How can we let people come in spiritually and we don't check or inquire after them, but the next thing you know, they've got close to our daughters, they've got close to our sons, they've got close to our brothers, to our sisters. How come we don't check them? Because we want to, as somebody just said earlier on, this concept of husnul dhan, make 70 excuses, but it only takes one action of mistrust and abuse to destroy. And I've seen it at its worst. I've seen it at its worst when I've seen individuals come in. I've done due diligence and they want to marry a sister. And I've said, okay, and we've gone through the motions. And then I've seen things and I've said, and this is one case that happened. And I said to sister, don't go ahead with it. I've seen things I don't like. Sister's like, okay, but then they've gone to a scholar that I know, and in the UK, and he said, look, Abdul Haqq, you're not her father, and they're adults, and if they want to come together, let them come together. So I said to the sister, I'm not going to be your wakil at this point in time, because I cannot endorse marrying this brother. What happened down the line? Her own daughter was groomed from 7 years old up to 13 and abused. And this individual went to jail. And I don't mind talking about these things. I'm not going to highlight who. Some would know the case. Went to jail for 11 years. So my thing is, we have to do due diligence. And sisters, when there's a doubt that's come from your wakil, from a colleague, not because he fancies you and wants to marry you himself, but he's got genuine concerns, or sister's got genuine concerns, and it's premised or predicated with evidence, pause, stop, because it can cause disaster, and I've witnessed it. And even 18 years on, I've seen the damage that it wrought. And this is just one example I've given. So we've got to be careful of wolves in sheep's clothing. We've got to be careful of these centers that were once good and were doing good and were active. And then we start seeing changes and corruption taking place amongst them, and internecine fighting taking place amongst them. And Jordan, for you as my brother, relatively new on the deen, everything, as I said, you are a beacon. You're a beacon of hope as well, mashallah, but you're a beacon for those who say, we like this guy. Sisters as well, we like this man. We want to come close. And some will be many of them will be genuine. Many of them will be lovely sisters, wanting to marry you, attractive brother, active in the dawah, everything like that. There will be others who are like, do you know what? I want to bring him into my circle. I want to bring him into my sphere to get what I can from him, even if it's status. Remember, even if it's status, it doesn't have to be tangible.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you know, I've been blessed to have brothers around me that have supported. But yeah, you're right. And I think those sorts of people have tried to get in touch. And yeah, may Allah keep it all, you know, keep it all clean. But yeah, I think it's definitely, I mean, this topic's been very powerful. And I think especially coming from you, who's obviously experienced many years of this and got many examples. I think what's been really good is that it's been very clear that it's not saying to the Muslims should be less generous. It's doing your due diligence and making sure you're generous to those who really need it. And I think that's a really beautiful message for Ramadan. And I needed that reminder as well, to be honest. So
I think we want to give. Our hearts are softer, and that's good. That's good. But we've got to remember at the same time, we've got people amongst us at this peak time where the hearts are softest, where we are the most vulnerable because we want Allah's pleasure. And yes, remember, yes, the shayateen are chained, okay? The shayateen are chained. But those whose desires are corrupted aren't. When we're slipping and we're doing something, we can't say, oh, it's the shaitan. It's our desires. It's our base desires that are unleashed that we have to contend with. And there are those, you don't put someone who was a bank robber, formerly a bank robber, you don't put them in charge of the treasury.
That's right.
You know, you don't do that. And we say, of course you don't do that. But then our thinking goes out of the window like, no, they've turned over a new leaf. We've got to give them a chance. You don't put someone who was an alcoholic in charge of something where he's going to fall into that sin again. You protect them from that for their sake. Help your brother or sister, whether he's the oppressed or the oppressor. And we've got to bear that in mind. And there are individuals amongst us, when money comes into our hands, it's money and wealth that we've never had before. We've never seen before. And it corrupts. Money corrupts. Power corrupts. Someone who's got a weakness with women, you don't make him responsible for the women in your community. You don't have him giving advice. And we all have weaknesses with women. And let's be frank, we all have weaknesses with women. But if you know that someone has been unsuccessful in that respect there, you don't put him in responsibility engagement with sisters. If you've got a sister that turns heads regularly and she has a weakness and penchant for men, you don't have her engaging with brothers to that degree, because it will harm her as well as harming the individuals. Those who are abusing their positions financially, we fear for them. It's harming them.
Yeah, I agree. There's actually, and I know we haven't got a whole lot of time yet, but there's one more thing I'd like to highlight, that's right with you, in terms of this gullibility, is this social media age now. We have a lot of reverts like myself that open up channels, and they can start become popular, because I think people are inspired by people's stories who's coming to Islam and whatever. And there's a lot, if you go on, I've been for whatever reason I was on TikTok, not anymore. But I've been on other platforms, and you see these reverts getting into these established positions to the point where their voice matters and people are listening to them. I've seen reverts giving out half fatwa kind of statements, and born Muslims listening to this. I've seen reverts online saying Christmas is fine. We do it, and
Right.
whatever they do behind is their business. But it's this. I feel like, I don't know, we're in an age where kind of scholars are more now sort of outside of social media, and we're being taken over by this kind of amateur voices, and many of them are the reverts that are coming on that end up building up big platforms. And I think that's also a gullibility that I think we need to be careful of. And I'm talking about myself as well. Don't listen to anything I say Islamically. I'm on here and I talk about my experiences and stuff like that. But we got to keep going to the scholars and stuff like that, because I think I see a danger in the social media where people are asking questions, and I get questions in my inbox, and it's like, why are you asking me? Like I'm not going to give you that answer. And it's the same, and I think that's also something, because that's serious stuff, isn't it, as well, where people
it's become
people.
I'm really glad you've mentioned that, Jordan, and bringing that in this context is important, because it's become edutainment in that instance. Okay, yes. And as you've said, and there are genuine people looking for genuine answers, but then what happens is we become intoxicated, and we don't know when to stop, because we see we have a following, we have an audience. And as I said to you before the show, I'm old school. With my channels, why don't you promote? Why don't you this? Because all I'm doing this for, and I think yourself and all those in Newcastle Fast FM, who I really respect, mashallah, it's just about putting the message out. Exactly. Whether one person's listened, two people, because we know the prophets, alayhim assalam, on Day of Judgment, some will come with no followers, some will come with one, some will come with 2, 3. We know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will come with a multitude, Musa alayhi salam with a multitude. So my thing is, we've got to keep centered on that. And unfortunately, when you become popular, not you per se or me, but when you become popular, you can become intoxicated if you don't check yourself.
It's the overpraise, isn't it, and stuff like that. And I always tell people, dislike my stream. I couldn't care if you like my stream or not. It doesn't make no difference to me.
And remember, you and I one day, Jordan and I are going to do another show soon. It's going to be called Don't Share. Don't like, and that's going to be the title. So we want everyone saying dislike, and don't share. Okay, but so no, you're right, Jordan, and I think again, it comes back to clarity. When you're listening to us, when you're listening to mere lay people who may be popular, you need clarity. Okay, in what we're saying, in what we're doing. Do not be gullible because you're seeing us on screen speaking. Do not be gullible concerning it. And then the message to Jordan and myself in that instance is that we're doing this from a point of sadaqah, charity, dawah, and we want to avoid being culpable of conveying a message to you that is destructive and dangerous to you. Okay, and we don't want to be culpable in knowing that a crime or something's being done or conveyed either from ourselves or from others that we endorse. We want to avoid that as well. So we have a responsibility, and we know that, but we need you to help us with that, to keep us decent, to keep us respectful, to keep reminding us. And that's why when you're all commenting and bringing up comments and things like this, and some of you will challenge us respectfully, as long as it's healthy discussion, we welcome that. We appreciate that. Okay, so Jordan, now that's a really important point that you've highlighted there, and I think as we go into the last 10 nights, be open with our hearts. Be ready to give that sadaqah that can purify our wealth, that can purify us in that instance. But be sensible. Be sensible. There are those out there who are waiting for you to give, and their intention is not the same as yours. And whilst we can't see that, seeking clarity is what we should do at the very least.
Yeah. I agree 100%.
You know, Jordan, I've given advice to as a younger Muslim than me in this instance there, and I would say for those of you as well, mashallah, Jordan, you're doing a fantastic job as well, and I'd say we need to sometimes wrap Jordan in cotton wool, in the sense that as a younger brother in that instance there, appreciate the work that he's actually doing in that instance there, and don't overpraise him, don't overpraise me, don't overpraise anyone. Make it measured, in the sense that it will encourage him to continue doing the very good work that he's doing, and that you're helping him in that instance, you're helping me in that instance. We're not looking for praise. Let's be clear. We're not looking for praise. We want Allah's pleasure, and that's the main thing that is actually there. But go out, do charity, go out, give yourself in lending a hand to brothers, to sisters and everything like that. But don't be gullible. And those of you who know there's wrong doing in your communities, you're witnessing it, you know about it, fear that you will be culpable if you don't enjoin with your hand, if you can't with your hand, with your tongue, and even if you can't do with your tongue and by speaking out against it, hating it in your heart. If you can't enjoin good in any of those three levels and you become a mute devil, okay, then you are culpable watching if it's abuse taking place and you're remaining silent, if it's abuse of finances, if it's deception, you cannot remain silent in that instance there. Do not remain silent, inshallah. So I will conclude by saying, I know it's a sober talk that we're giving here in this instance. It needs to be done. Those of you who are culpable in dealing with this here, I hope you see this message. I know that you see me as a thorn in your side in that instance. I don't care. You've got to really look in this Ramadan and stop what you've been doing. And if you're mismanaging and calling the people to help you, bail you out of your mismanagement, you need to step out of that position and put those who are capable, so that they are, when they ask for finances, it's a genuine request and it's for a genuine cause. And it's not just because you fouled up and you don't know how to take care of your own business. But people give, but clarify.
And I think this is I've never heard this topic talked about before, but it's something we probably all have in the back of our minds. And look, from the comment section, it looks like most people are saying they're glad it's been spoken about and has been beneficial. So not easy, and can be controversial, but if we don't talk about it, it's not going to change.
And yes, Shabnam, you're right. We need Thorns to give an occasional nip. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely, and to prick that finger to make us go, ooh, and wake us up. So you're absolutely right. But Jordan, look, Jazakallah khair again. All of you, it's late for you there. I'm going to have my last bit of water in my dates before Fajr comes in. And I look forward to seeing you in the last 10 nights, inshallah. And continue to have a blessed Ramadan. Jazakallah khair, Jordan, and to everyone for joining us at this time. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.